once a reserve currency goes into reserve currency status, you can't bring it back without hyperinflation. And when those dollars come home, and the federal government is not just going to go ahead and start burning dollars so they can bring the inflationary trend down. And it doesn't exactly work that way to begin with. We're going to see a time where your milk is going to cost you $20 for a gallon of milk. You're going to see a time where you're going to spend $10 on a gallon of gas. You're going to see a time where your loaf of bread is going to cost you $5 or more if you're talking about just the basic off-brand bread. But this isn't the first time that prior to the existence of the Constitution, there was a period of time during the Revolution where they had paper currency. They tried it. It failed miserably. It turned into hyperinflation. Many of the founders themselves, when they put Article 1, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10, is that the correct one? I'm trying to think. In was because they knew that if states couldn't take the opportunity to reassure backing of whatever currency is available based on a physical asset, a physical, tangible good, then they're going to experience the same thing they did during the Revolution. And what we're seeing today is actually something much, much worse, because paper is one thing. You can only print so much paper before, in so much time. But when you can start taking a central bank and then you can start adding zeros on the end of everything, then the dollars go, the inflation happens 10, 20 times as fast. Well, the fact is that as these dollars, God, I'm losing my train of thought, bear with me. As these dollars keep coming home and this starts happening, they're going to try to exchange us. They're going to try to shift us into a central bank digital currency to try to control the transactions locally, because you're not the fractional reserving of currency. When they keep loaning it out on a loan, it doesn't work. And as you've seen with Silicon Valley Bank, and as you've seen with other banks, when the bank runs start happening, you either bail them out or you bail them in. What does that result in? More printing, more FDIC involvement, more everything in that realm. And the further we go into the central planning of the dollar, then the worse this is going to get. The more control that they're going to have over the individual's finances, the higher the inflation rate, the more just trouble in general the economy is going to have. And you could, people try to say, oh, you can take, minimum wage and raise it up higher. It's a Band-Aid. It doesn't fix the problem. At the end of the day, inflation is coming, bad times are coming, and this right here, in fact, if you look at the bond market, the futures market, on gold and silver, which is another thing I want to address too, is the spot plus market premium. There's something called an aggregate premium, which is a base number that you can kind of look at, which is the sum and average out of what the general market premiums are over the COMEX, which is the basis for spot price. So that portion of the bill actually has a pretty well defined section on how you can define market premium. So that shouldn't be an issue. And I do digress. The issue of, oh God, where was I with the first one? I'm losing track of myself again. But the issue of, wow, I lost track of where I was at. Okay, I'm just going to open up for questions at this point. Maybe we'll talk about it. Thank you, gentlemen. Any questions?
All right. Thank you so much for your testimony. We will hear the next witness in favor. How many more do we have that are still interested in testifying in favor? We got two more? All right. Whoever's next, go ahead and make your way up. Be sure to introduce yourself and make sure your witness form has been submitted.
On my cough drop here. My name is Sarah Carney. I'm a constituent of the 4th Congressional District, so I'm opposite audience, I'm about an hour away from here. So I I'm here to speak in favor of SB 100. I wrote the speech like last night, and I think as most of us would like to kind of prepare for these things the night before, when at all possible. So I was gonna say, I kind of went out on a limb here, thinking that there'd probably be several of the people that were gonna be here to, voice their opinion as we people should. So I'm gonna try to keep this short and sweet and not be too redundant. I was fairly certain that one of my other peers would probably cover the constitutionality of SB 100, which they pretty much did. And I'm also pretty certain that they might even address, the fact that the Federal Reserve is kind of a treasonous entity in the first place, and that whenever Nixon gutted the gold back with the Bretton Woods system that we had, whenever he signed his legislation in '71, that he effectively made the United States dollar completely worthless. It has no backing at all. It's just a piece of paper. I don't even know why we killed the trees that we printed on or whatever. I kind of feel like that it was incredibly ignorant and careless with all of our lives, really. Essentially they're trading our social security numbers on the stock market like water futures. Now, I'm not really too shocked by that, but I'm not your average citizen, your average normal person, or I think Joe Biden called us energized MAGA Republicans, even though we're not identified as Republican, but it's whatever, to know my history. And you can't really think about history if you think about Nixon's reasoning for doing that to the Bretton Woods system was to curb the inflation for after the war. It's history and the war and the Nazis. And just in case you're not aware, those same descendants, Klaus Schwab, are still very actively destroying our world in real time. They want everybody on Agenda's 2030s system, pretty much. Community paper that I read from the World Economic Forum that's titled The Global Future Council and on the Financial Monetary System Vision for 2030 is very freaking terrifying. If you haven't read it, you probably should. I'm sure by the time that the New World Order is done rolling out all of this fourth industrial revolution, great reset, track trace, technocratic panopticon crap that they're doing, we'll all be dead, right? So what's it really matter? But, I have kids, so I'm not cool with their kids living in smart cities, owning nothing, eating bugs, and liking it, which is pretty much what they all want. So, if you care about protecting, our constitutional republic and what's, left of our rights that need to be restored, then I would strongly support this bill. Sorry. Thanks for your time. Any questions?
Thank you, Lady. Any questions? All right, thank you so much. I believe we've got one last witness. We got two more. Okay, so whoever's next, make your way up. Sure to introduce yourself and submit your witness form.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Pellis. I'm from Cass County. I strongly support this piece of legislation. I see several different there's several problems with fiat currency. One of the main problems there's a couple main problems I see, but one being the fact that with fiat currency, the federal government is able to tax us via inflation. And that tax is not a tax that we consent to. They are able to, at will, tax us via inflation. It's a major problem. They're devaluing our currency. And as a mechanical contractor, I work for wages. I work to make money so I can buy things. And what I see a problem when we are not using sound money, when we don't have sound currency. I have to become an investor just to keep up with inflation. And so this issue of I go to work to make money, and then my money becomes worth less over time because the government is taxing it via inflation. We need an option to be able to get away from fiat currencies and to get away from having to be an investor just so I can keep the value of my money. And so I think it steals from our future. It steals from our ability to be productive. I would rather focus my time and energy on being productive and being good at my job. And instead, I work for those wages, and then any excess that I have to figure out how to invest that money just so I can keep up with that inflation. And so there's a lot of other aspects of this bill that I really appreciate, but returning to sound constitutional money is something that I think is imperative. And there's been a lot of problems already stated about where we are at with our currency today, but that's just one specific issue. I think that this piece of legislation, it would give us an option that we can use. We can start restoring to sound money. So with that, any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? All right, seeing none, thank you, gentlemen, for
Thank you.
sharing today. I believe the last witness in favor, sure to introduce yourself and submit your witness form.
My name's Kevin Hurdle. I'm a citizen of Missouri, and I'm here to testify in favor of this bill. First of all, I'll let you guys know, I'm no gold or silver expert, okay? I never even really had that much of an interest in it for, quite a while. And every time I heard talk of people saying, oh, runaway inflation, this, that, and everything else, I never paid much attention to it because the United States has always had the petrodollar, either through trade, through industrial might, or through military might. We made everybody around this world use our dollar. So even when, we're 30 trillion in debt or whatever, I never worried about it because I knew everybody had to use our money. Unfortunately, now times are changing. You see everybody starting to go off the petrodollar. All right, so now I'm worried about inflation and things like that. And what I like about this bill is it really doesn't interfere with banking in any way. All it does is it provides an extra option. And I tell you what, if someone like me is starting to pay attention to what's going on and starting getting interested in investing in gold and silver, this is perfect timing for this bill. I mean, think about it. Next year is going to be elections, right? If we pass this bill and the economy's great next year, what's going to change? Nothing. I mean, you don't have to use gold and silver if you don't want to, but if somebody wants to, they can. So really, this bill does not interfere with anything. But let's say we pass this bill and next year we have a huge recession or something like that. You got more countries opting out of the out of our dollar, and things start to tank. Then it would be a good thing that we pass this bill because now we have another option. Now I know most of you on here are already in favor of this, but those of you that are still making a decision, or maybe you're against it or something, this is something you might want to keep in mind. Because like I said, somebody like me all of a sudden is taking an interest in this, then passing this bill might be a good thing. Because like I said, if you read it, it's pretty straightforward. Once you get away from all those statutes they put in there that's already in the Missouri books, it's really a simple, straightforward thing. And I think something else I want to cover too is concerning the spot price and premium, and also as far as using gold and silver, you have to use those machines. What do we call those things? I got it right here. Hang on, guys. Quick. Let's see. Yeah, they got like a Sigma precious metals machines where you can weigh your coins, and they're going to be 100% and whatever. Just like this. Now I know some people are probably going to say, "Hey, how is this going to work if you're going to use gold and silver? Is this going to be a pain in the rear or whatever?" But you got to remember, when we went from cash to start using debit cards and credit cards more, they had to make those machines, right? And how much of it was pretty much a seamless transition. And these are pretty easy to use, not that big a deal. And I imagine any bank you go to or any wherever you can pay your state taxes and stuff, they'll have these machines. It won't be that big a deal. I mean, even if public places like a Target or something like that want to start using these, I mean, I don't think it'd be any harder, for the employees to figure it out. Or actually nowadays, everybody's going to where you do your own checkout. Hey, I'll be glad to take care of my own spot price. But anyways, I just want to leave it at that. Like I said, you can't go wrong with this bill. I mean, it should be something like, again, if something does happen later on in the year, if our dollar does tank, we kind of got it covered, or at least we got another option. You just can't go wrong with the bill. All right, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming in today. I believe that is it for witnesses in favor, so we will now transition to witnesses in opposition. Please introduce yourself and make sure you got your witness form submitted.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Nikki Strong with Missouri Healthcare Association. I'm not opposed to the underlying bill, but there was an amendment added on the Senate floor that would open this up and require public bodies to take gold as payment. That brings in your public healthcare facilities. So we would be opposed to that piece of legislation. We talked to Senator Eichel's office about that and believe we could work through that issue.
Okay.
Taking questions.
Any questions for this witness? Representative Wilson, you're recognized for comment inquiry.
I just wanted to make sure I have an accurate understanding of what your opposition is. Let's just say, going off of what Representative Perkins said earlier, let's say somebody's got $1,000 worth of gold at home and they've hit hard times, whatnot. You're saying that your concern is that they would, let's say they owe the hospital $500. If they bring in $500 worth of gold, you're not sure that you guys will be able to process that as a payment?
Well, I'm not hospitals, I'm nursing homes.
Nursing.
But yeah, exactly. So we're not a bank, we're not a retail industry, we're a healthcare entity. We have to deal with, yeah, to your point, yeah, us taking that and having to process that. And then when you're talking about the spot price, okay, so we've provided a service. What is that worth today versus tomorrow? You get the money today, you cash it tomorrow, or the gold today, you cash it tomorrow. For us to be able to take gold would be very difficult for our facilities. We're there for health care purposes, not a banking or financial institution. So it's not the underlying bill, it's just the amendment that was added on the floor that says that all public entities shall take that as a payment.
Okay. I think I understand. Thank you.
Representative Velasco, you're recognized for comment inquiry.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to assume that the intention of that was to mean public entities as in like political subdivisions or the like,
Probably, yeah.
not places open for public accommodation.
But it
So,
doesn't say that.
okay, so
yeah,
you just
we
want
would
some
like
clarification there.
Exactly, we would
Okay.
just like clarification that it would not include, and I can't speak for my colleagues over the healthcare or the hospital association, but from the nursing home perspective, we would just like that clarified, what public body means.
I don't think the intention here was to that wouldn't be just your industry at that point. If it was read that way, that would be all commerce, and I don't think that's quite practical at this point, unfortunately. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, thank you for your testimony. Next witness in opposition, please introduce yourself, put your witness form submitted.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Philip Arnzen with the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And our concerns are somewhat similar to the previous witness. We believe it could be interpreted as making gold and silver a legal currency and requiring it to be used for public and private debts, specifically the private debts. That could be interpreted as requiring businesses to accept gold and silver for their, for engaging in commerce. Our concern there is that we believe that businesses should be able to decide what currency or what they accept as payment. If they want to only accept gold or silver, that's great. If they want to accept livestock, great. Or if they just want to accept cash, they can do that as well. So that's our concern, and we've talked to the bill sponsor, and we'll continue to work with them as well to try to address that.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you. Anyone else to testify in opposition? All right, anyone here to testify for informational purposes only? All right, seeing none, then that concludes the public hearing for Senate Bill 100. Thank you.